for the, what is that? Did somebody can say that what is HTTP? Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Okay. So HTTPS stands for the Hypertext Transfer Protocol with security. Okay. Okay, fine. Now, if you are aware of what how the server and how the client and what is the database is, that is fine. But I just want to recollect or recap one more time. Basically, we do have a something called a three-tier architecture. Okay, what is three-tier architecture in a real world? For every web application, any application, whatever you are implementing, basically that will contain three parts. One is a front end. Second one is a middle layer. People usually call it as a server, but call it as a server, just a server. Okay, we call it as a middle layer. Okay, and then the third part, we will have a database. Okay, so database or backend server or anything names are different, but things are the same. So what is a front end technology, what is a middle layer technology, and what is a database? You just need to understand first these 3 points, because these 3 points are very key points to implement any web application. So that is the reason I'm just starting with these things. If you are getting bored or something, please chat here. I will try. Okay, his curriculum was different. He said he needs 60 sessions. Yes, we do have a more than 60 sessions. I'm not sure. I'm trying to cover most of the things, whatever there in this curriculum. But I really didn't get any curriculum. This is the only curriculum I got, Divyansh. So that is the reason I'm just going with these things. Okay. So the front end and the middle layer and the back end. Okay, and the backend, what is the backend called? The database. Let's say there is a person who went for some restaurant. Okay, so he is the user. Basically, we call it as a user, and this user will go to the restaurant and he is ordering something. Let's say. For that, he called one server. This is called a server. Okay, so he called the server and he take the order. Server will take the order and he will go for some cooking section or somewhere, and he will say that, okay, we need this much of food and this for this item, something like that. Okay, so whoever ordering the food, they called as a front end guys. Okay, front end users, basically we call it as end users. Okay, but and for end users experience, we it is a different thing. We need to discuss about end user experience and all. But first of all, developers perspective, there are three people whoever doing the front end part, like HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, these kind of part. These people are called front end people. And then middle layer, the middle layer in the sense server developers, the people who are implementing a server code, they are called the middle layer people or the middle layer developers, server developers. So we are using a different technology stack for this middle layer. The thing is something like a Node.js or Java or .NET or PHP, any kind of middle layer technology we can use. Okay, so databases side, we do have two type of databases. One is SQL database, and second one is a NoSQL database. Okay, so what is SQL database? So this is a traditional query language what we are using called a, what we are called it as a structured query language, where we are using a different tech stack. We can call it as something like a Oracle, because basically this Oracle is the biggest database what we are using from past long, since 30 to 40 years, let's say. After that, we are using something called a MySQL, and we are using something called a SQL Server. Okay, so every database server is having a different comes from different companies, and they are building by their own. Similarly, we have recent days, we are hardly listening this PostgreSQL. Okay, this is one of the most famous what it is called, the database. In the NoSQL database, we have something called a technology stack called something like a MongoDB. Okay, or Redis. Okay, these kind of database are there. These are called a NoSQL database. So let's say front end is the people who send some request to the middle layer, and the server people will take that request or accept that request, and they will manipulate some data by using help of databases, and they will send some response to the middle layer, and the middle layer people will manipulate that response and send it back to the front end. So in the front end technology, you need to learn something called HTML or HTML5 or CSS or CSS3. Along with that, if it is a good to hands, like if you have a good knowledge on a Bootstrap, that will be good, because Bootstrap is one of the best framework for a CSS. And JavaScript, obviously, it is a core JavaScript is really very important to us. Okay. Next one, the databases side, we are not discussing anything so far now. We will talk about that later. Okay. Out of these three technology stack, I assume that you guys are already having some good experience with HTML or HTML5, CSS and CSS3 or Bootstrap, and then JavaScript. Basically, if you want to become if you want to survive in the IT world, right? Basically, currently we do have something called a MERN stack developer or something like a mean stack developer, something called a full stack developer. Okay. So what is this mean stack stands? MERN stack stands for. MERN stack stands for the Mongo, Express, React, Node. MERN, MER, stands for Mongo Express React Node. The person or a developer who is aware of this Mongo with the Mongo and a Node with the Express and React, then this guy is called a mean stack developer. Let's say there is a person who is aware of MongoDB and with Express and Angular and Node. These are called a mean stack developer. Somewhat a full stack developer in the sense the person who is aware of mean stack plus MERN stack. Along with that, he needs to know something like a very strong in a JavaScript, mean, MERN, simply I can say any one of the cloud technologies. Any one of the cloud technologies means the cloud technologies are there are different cloud vendors are there in a market. Currently, we have something called AWS, Amazon Web Services. You are aware of GCP, Google Cloud Parties. So GCP, and next one there is a Microsoft Azure is there. Okay. So these are the topmost vendors who is ruling the cloud technology nowadays. So at least one of the cloud technologies you should be aware, either AWS or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure. That will be good. So these people are called as a full stack developer. Some people may say that okay, if we learn Java, then only we call it as a full stack developer. No, it is not required. Basically, if you are aware of any one of the programming language like Node.js or Java or .NET or PHP or C++ is also fine. Any one of those, if you are strong in these things, then definitely you call it as a full stack developer. I mean, you can change your resume as you claim yourself as a full stack developer and you can attend for the interviews. So this is all about something called a technology stack. You should definitely know. In the three-tier architecture, these are the technologies or these are the things which we have covered as a full stack developer. But apart of all these things, currently we are completely relying on the Node.js. So I just want to know the importance of Node.js first. So as you already heard about this one, basically earlier we don't have a client side. Basically, client side we are using HTML and CSS only earlier. But to give additional features like events or actions to the particular page or a web page, definitely we need to use a JavaScript. So simply JavaScript is nothing but it will provide a additional facility called actions or events to the JavaScript. Okay, that is the thing. Now, in the JavaScript, we do have two type of frameworks. The first one is a client-side frameworks, and next one is a server-side frameworks. Okay, client-side frameworks in the sense what? Definitely, you need to aware of these things. We do have a thousands of client-side frameworks. There is no limit for that. For example, if you are aware of Lodash or something, or if you are aware of Angular, then it is fine. Or if you are aware of React, currently React is the most popular front-end framework for the JavaScript, and then Vue.js. So there are a lot of client-side frameworks out there. But out of all those frameworks, there is only one server-side framework is there that is called a Node.js. Okay. So remember one thing on the top of Node, again, we do have some what it is called a different frameworks which we are built on a Node.js as well. Okay. So so you need to understand what are those first. Okay. So on the top of Node.js, we do have a other framework called Express. This is what we are going to cover in our current session. Now, in the current market, we do have something called a Nest.js as well. And nowadays, it is the most popular framework and in upcoming days because this is gradually people are using Nest.js a lot in their projects than the Express as well. But as per our curriculum, we are going with the Express.js. But if you guys really need some what it is called, if you want some time, if you have some time, and if you want to learn more, we can do some small application by using an Next.js as well. That is not a big deal. You can do that. Okay, fine. So this is all about a JavaScript. So how many of you are really good at a JavaScript? Just message here. I mean, I hope that you guys are listening me. So uh, please message here how many of you are good in JavaScript side. No response. Are you guys there? Hello. Okay. Rajesh, he's saying like average. There are out of six participants, only one guy replied. What about others? We do have a very less people, right? So easily we can, what it is called, easily communicate each other. So average only Divyan Shahu. Okay, Sandeep P. Good. Three. Three more. Fine. So if you guys are not comfortable to answer, then it's fine. I'm okay. I'm okay, and I want to continue the session. Okay, so if you are good at a JavaScript, the very first concept you need to learn about something called an object or objects. Okay, basically this is a very very important concept. Okay, Tejaswini Sahu, she's saying like good, that's fine. So definitely object concept is really very very important, and you need to learn. And definitely you need to have a functions. So if you are good at functions, you need to know what is a callback functions and all. Okay, so next one is asynchronous JavaScript. Okay. Out of it, asynchronous JavaScript, you need to learn a little bit called what is a callbacks are and what are a promises are and whatever is called as a async await. These three are the major concepts you have to definitely learn if you want to go with the Node.js, because Node.js is completely built on these promises, callbacks, and async await. So people may ask me questions. So why definitely okay? Axios is not really required. Basically, you can have a request modules is there or Axios. There are different npm packages are there. You can use any of the package whatever you want. It is not restricted to particularly use Axios and all. You can use anything is fine. Even you can use a request module also fine. There is no such a rule, something like, okay, you should definitely write this one. But even if you are using an Axios or request module or whatever the modules you are using, definitely you need to understand what is a callback and what is a promises and what is a async await. If you are good at a callbacks and all, then it's fine. But definitely if you are not aware, please give me 2 more minutes. I will just try to finish this callbacks and promises for today class session and async await, so that you will be familiar with those and try to do some example programs on that one. I strictly recommended to install a Node.js in your local boxes and try to practice regularly. I mean, for every one or couple of sessions, like 2 to 3 sessions, I will give some small homeworks for you, because it's a six people easily we can easily monitor the people, right? So that is the reason I'm just giving a small homeworks for you guys. Okay, so Node.js is as I mentioned, out of all client side and server side frameworks, Node.js is the only framework which we have in the server side. And remember one thing, by using a JavaScript, Node.js is the one and only framework on the server side. There is no any other frameworks. Okay, just remember that point. If somebody told you like, okay, Angular by React or Vue can we connect to the database and all, yes, you can easily connect it, but it will not comes under into this category, because every web application should be defined and implemented definitely by using a three-tier architecture. Some people can use a databases, or some people can use a REST endpoint, some people can use a microservice architecture, whatever it may be. But definitely three layers should be there. One is definitely for the front end, one is for the middle layer, and another for the backend database. Backend database in the sense it can be database, or it can be REST endpoints, or it can be cloud computing, anything it can be. But definitely you have to learn a lot. So Node.js is, one of the most popular framework in the backend client JavaScript. So people will think like, what is a full stack developer role came up in the JavaScript? So usually people are familiar with the HTML or CSS bootstrap along with the JavaScript. So initial days they go with the JavaScript only. Later in the middle layer language they used to learn the Node.js. So whenever they learn the Node.js, if you observe this one, the front end is having some JavaScript part like Angular or React here. Okay, these are all comes under into this category. Angular, React, Vue, lot of things are there. Okay, so later they start learning on the, they want to put it this JavaScript into the middle layer or a server side, and then they think of like, okay, a guy knows the JavaScript and able to implement from the front end, and similarly as the middle layer, why can't we put it in the back end side? That is the reason they invented something called a NoSQL database, where we are using a MongoDB. So MongoDB is everything is a collection, I mean group of some collections. We can say it is a records, but we can call it as functions or collections. And as we know in the SQL databases, definitely we will have something called a joins, inner queries, and all. This is completely querying language, right? The name itself indicates it is a NoSQL. That means there is no SQL. Only the functions are there. We need to definitely use some functions on that. If you are using a MongoDB, we need to learn something called a Mongoose. Mongoose is the client for a MongoDB. So definitely you have to learn about this MongoDB as well. So Redis is one of the catchy server, what we can call it as. For example, if you are implementing some application and if you want to log something, in that cases, definitely we will use the Redis. The Redis is a easy or I can say it's a very lightweight. You should not save every database. You cannot use the Redis as a database. Instead of that, you can use as a catchy server. Catchy server in this sense, for example, there are 1,000 records. You want to send a request from the front end to the database or middle layer, and every time you are don't need to fetch all the 1,000 records from the database and hit that one, because if you do that, so right, the server will be very heavy. That means the server will become a very slow. So instead of that, what we will do, we will take one intermediate catchy server called a Redis. We will keep all the data here, and for every service request from the front end, if the data is modifying, then definitely we will go for the MongoDB. Otherwise, we will fetch from the data called intermediate catchy server from the Redis. Or sometimes what happen, let's say if you want to if you want to keep some transactions when while you are doing some transaction, right, there are different steps are there. Until unless all the transactions are finished, you should not go to the database. Let's say that is the that is what the better example. Let's say if you go for ATM, first it will take your card details and it will ask your pin code and everything, right? So these are all the transactions, but until unless you take the money out, you should not update to the original bank. For that, there are some small intermediate or middle transactions we will do. But when you remove the money, or if you withdraw some money from your account, definitely the request should go to the actual database like Oracle or MySQL or something. But until then, what are the temporary transactions you are doing? Until unless you click on the cancel button, so all the transaction will be saved in the intermediate cache server. I'm not talking about a ready server. I'm talking about an intermediate cache server. Okay. Fine. We will call something. I mean, we will discuss something about a callback functions. Okay, or something called a callbacks. Basically, what is a callbacks? Can somebody? I mean, if you are some people say that okay, good, right? So can you guys tell me what is a callback is? No worries, guys. I won't take more than 1 hour. Okay, it's hardly 45 minutes max to max. I will try to close. So just be attentive and try to give some answers. If you are not aware, please say that okay, I don't know, something like that. What is a callback? Either you know or don't know. Hello, not aware, sir. Ashish Singh, Divyans, when a function is using an argument in function. Okay, fine. Okay. Anyone else? Out of six, I'm just expecting 30% of answers. I mean, sorry, 50% of answers. That means at least three people, if you reply, then immediately I can go for a concert. Then, yeah, it's fine. Divyansh, whatever you told is a little bit correct. Like when a function is using an argument in a function. For example, okay, you are aware of the functions, right? So let me write a one simple function. Okay, let me say that is a function. Okay, something called a sum is my function. Okay, in the sum function, what I will do, I will take two parameters, something like a x and y are my parameters. Let's say. Okay, now what I will do, I will do something called a return x plus y. Right? This is what basically we will do. Definitely, what we will do is we will write a function with a return keyword so that this a function accept in another function as a parameter. Okay, fine. So in this traditional functions, right, what we will do, we will pass the arguments, that arguments or parameters or values or whatever you call it as. So these parameters, whatever parameters you are passing to the function, and based on the function values, you will return some value from that particular function. So this is the traditional function mechanism method. Okay. Now what you will do is, so you don't need to return anything. Instead of that, you want to do some addition some additional task here. Okay, for example, let's say you are writing something, a piece of code. In that you will execute some piece of code here, and later you want to log that one. Okay, so something like a log me is my another parameter. Okay, this parameter can be a function. Okay, so now you don't need to return anything. Instead of that, what I will do, I will just put a console.log here. Okay, it's a maybe not a good example, but I just want you to understand like what is this one is. So immediately what I will do, I will call another function called log me. Okay, what is this log me will do? So log me will definitely log the things whatever you are doing here. See, here I'm not passing any parameters and all, but if you want you can pass the values. I mean to say, like, it is not the good way. So do one thing here, just take one variable. So let's s equals to x plus y. So this is what you want to do here, and then you want to display that console.log in the console like yes, and similarly you want to log that value yes value here. Okay, now what is the function of log me will do? Let's say you need to write another function here, functi function log me. Here you will take some parameter, something, anything is fine, like x is my parameter, anything is fine. Okay, so here what we will do, let's say you are using some logger. So logger logger dot trace, let's say. Okay, in the trace log for let's say you are using a log4j or any other frameworks what we are using for a logging. Okay, so sum is calculated as, okay, this is nothing but a s value, that's it. So if you observe this one, right, you are calling a sum function with the x comma y comma log me function, and in the log me function whatever the parameter you are passing, that value is a s, simple. Okay, so now if you observe this one in a JavaScript or in any other traditional programming languages like C, C++, or Java or somewhere, you may can't send a function as an argument to the another function, but in JavaScript you can pass another function as an argument to the function. Then it is called a callback. Okay, so what callback will do? Whenever you pass the other function, once this function current function is executed, then the callback function will be executed, right? So this is what all about a callback, sir. But there are some drawbacks with the callbacks. Do you know what is a callback hell is? So basically, what is a callback hell? Let's say you are calling one function inside another function. Let's say this function is x is not a value. Let's consider this is another function. So now here there is some function like x comma. You make up something like a return val. Okay, there is another function. Okay, this function is executing here. Something like a return val is another function. Now you can pass any number of functions, one function to another function to another function, so on, keep on going. Okay, so by this time, what happened, right? Sometimes in a real time, let's say there is a callback functions which is calling from one function to another function to another function, but something goes wrong, and really control don't know how to come out from the function, so that the server will be crashed. This kind of situation is called as a callback hell. So to avoid this kind of situation, so people are introduced a new concept in IES 6. So this is called a promises. Okay, promises is very important thing. Basically, nowadays people are not using the callbacks anymore. In a very rare cases, people may use, but people are habituated to this promises. Okay, so what is a promise? Do you guys aware of what is a promises? No, no response. Okay, asynchronous calling mechanism to call the HTTP services. Simply, I can say this definition. Okay, any HTTP or HTTPS definition, asynchronous calling method. So, async working do means I didn't get this. I think working do. I didn't get your point, Sandeep. Okay. So asynchronous calling mechanism to call HTTP service. For example, if you are calling to the database from the Node.js, Node.js is a server-side programming language, right? So if you want to call any database call or any REST endpoint call or any socket call, anything if you want to do, then definitely we need to use a promises. Just like a callbacks, these will execute the promises as well. But promises is a predefined keyword or predefined class in a what JavaScript. You can create a new promise by using a new promise of something like this. Okay, every promise will take a two parameters. One is a resolve, another one is a result. So what is resolve and reject? Let's say if the promise is executed successfully, then we are calling another method called a resolve. If the promise is having any issues, then we call it as a reject. Okay, that means let's consider like a resolve is a positive case, reject is a negative case. Okay, so how we are doing these promises and all, it's a very big concept, but yeah, very short and simple, I'm telling you. So basically there is something called a method dot then method. The dot then method is a method which is used to call any promise. Probably if you are working with any JavaScript projects, definitely you may aware of these promises or callbacks, but I just want to write some example here. Okay, just give me 1 second. What I will do, I will just want to create one folder here. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, I just created one folder here, and I'm just opening that folder in a VS Code. Okay, okay. Now, so this is my VS Code, and I created a node training folder. Okay, here I just want to create something like a file1.js, let's say. Okay, so this is the file where I can write my all JavaScript or we used in API fetching, right? You can use a fetch or something. So by that time also you can play with this promises and all. Okay, so you know how to execute this code, right? You need to first install that node.js. Okay, so if you want to execute something, then definitely you need to write something like a node space file1.js or something. Okay, for your sake, I just write something called a console.log, something like other node.js, let's say. Okay, I just want to try whether it is executing fine or not. So node space for file1.js. So simply hello node.js. This is what we are executing. That means we are able to execute successfully our node.js code. So now we can write anything here. So basically what we will do, like let's say there is some variable called a p. Okay, so now p is a variable. Now if you want to create any promise, you can use something like a new promise. See, if you have any questions or any doubts, right, definitely don't need to go for any other what it is called, any sites or something, but I strongly suggest you go to the nodejs.org. This is the best site, and this is official documentation where you can lot about a node.js. So there are lot of concepts are there, but we will try as much as we can. Okay, this is a node.js is all about. And similarly, if you want to learn more about a JavaScript, definitely I strongly recommend you like a developers.mdn. Okay, like okay, go to JavaScript MDN, and here you guys can learn a lot here. Okay, for example, I'm not aware of something called a promises, so I just want to see how to use a promise and all. See how to use a promise. What is a synchronous JavaScript? Introduction to synchronous JavaScript. There are a lot of concepts are there. We may can't cover out of 100% here, but definitely we can cover as much as we can. See, using the fetch endpoint. Fetch API is one of the endpoint we can use, or request is another one. Definitely we can use a lot. Okay, no worries, but I will tell you how the promises are looks like, and I will go with some simple examples to make you understand. So new promise, that is the one. So basically, if you are calling any promise, right, if you want to call that promise, then definitely you need to use a promise dot then method. Okay, promise dot then is a method which will always execute your promise. But how to create your promise? As I mentioned earlier, every promise will take two parameters. I mean to say the very one callback. Say this is the callback which will take. Okay, so I assume that you guys are aware of arrow functions and all. So you can write simple function of something with a name, but I am comfortable to write the arrow function. So that is the reason I'm going with this syntax. So always promise will take a one arrow function. This arrow function will take always two parameters. One is a resolve and next one is a reject. Always remember this one. Resolve is a success case and reject is a failure case. Let's say there is no failure case in my code. So what I will do, I will just something like a resolve. I just write a resolve. Okay. Uh, this is success. That's it. Nothing much. I will just write a this is success. Okay. Now in the promise dot then, what you need to do? Simply promise dot then dot catch dot there are lot of functions are there, but you need to understand how this promise dot then will work. In the promise dot then again it will take another what it is called a callback. In the callback it will take something called a response. It can be anything. I mean to say like whatever this promise is resolving, right? Resolving in the sense successfully it is sending, that is nothing but a response. That response will comes to here, and in the response if you want to execute something like a console dot log, okay, so what I will do, I will just print out that response here. Okay, simple. Save. I'll try to execute this code. And what I'm expecting is this is success. That's it. Nothing much. Okay. So node file1.js. See, this is a success. That's what I got. Let's say you are rejecting this promise with something called a reject, and this is failure. Let's see. Okay. Save. Now, what we are expecting? P dot then response of console.log. Definitely uh, dot then will always execute the positive scenario. That means success case. If you want to execute the negative scenario, then you need to use something called a dot catch. Okay. Dot catch is the one which will execute only the negative cases. I mean, it is like what are the rejected cases are there, that one. So let's say you are passing one error. I mean, this is another callback. You will pass one error. Let's say you are just printing something like console.log and error you want to display. That's it, nothing much. Simple. Okay. Always remember promise dot then will execute the positive scenario. Dot catch will execute the error scenario. Now, what I'm expecting here, I'm expecting something like this is failure. That's it. Okay, so if you have any doubt, what I will do is I will just put something like I am at success scenario. Okay, and I want to print this response here, and I want to something like I am at a failure scenario, and this is my error. That's it, simple. Okay, see, I'm at failure scenario, this is my failure. That's it. Are we clear about this one? Now you understood what is a promise is not, right? And there is a lot of chaining is there. Chaining in the sense one promise another. I mean to say like you can use something like a promise dot then you can use anything like that. So this is nothing but called a promise chaining. Okay, there is a concept called a promise chaining. Please go through that and read about the promise chaining. But for now I'm just having only one promises, so that means something like a result. Okay, so you can add some condition based here. Let's say if true, let's say you can make it a if one in the sense obviously that is a true, in that cases you can make it as a resolve. And what you will do in the else case, you just write something called a result. Okay, so just try to understand based on the condition what it will do. Either it will go and resolve this one, or it will go to the else block and it will reject the thing. Okay. So promise dot then of response. Definitely it is the success scenario and definitely it is a error scenario. Whatever it is happens, don't care whether it is a resolve or reject. I don't care. But there is something called a finally. Finally is one of the method. So what finally will do? It will take one parameter, something like a uh, I can say like a response final, or don't need to pass any parameters. Okay, don't need to pass any parameters. I just want to put something like a console.log of uh, promise executed successfully. Okay, so that's it. See, whether it is a success scenario or a negative scenario, we don't care. But definitely, I want to show some message to the user that a promise is executed successfully. Now, let's say I'm going with the positive case first. Positive case first. In the sense, definitely, I have a, because if one in the sense every time it is a true, right? So that's why it will go to the results case and it will show like this is success. I'm at success scenario. Space this is a response. Whatever the response is there, that will show here. And after that, it will come to the finally block and it will show the promise executed successfully. Let's see. See, I'm at success scenario. This is success and promise execute successfully. But what if I could keep a zero here? Let's say if I put a zero here, that means every time it is a false, definitely the if condition is a false. So it will go to the else block and it will show the message something like this is a failure. So it will come to the catch block and it will show the error message something like I am at failure scenario and the error. But whatever it is, whether it is success or failure, definitely it will come to the finally block and it will show like a promise executed successfully. See, I'm at a failure scenario. This is a failure, but promise execute successful. See, finally will be used only if you want to show some message or if you want to execute some piece of code after the promise is successfully executed, or failure, or it is not successfully executed, but still there is an error. But definitely you want to run some piece of code. In that case, we are using finally. So now in a real time scenario where we will use, let's say this is a promise and it is having something like we are sending some request, and that request will come to the promises, and here we are sending a 200 okay message to the user, and let's say there is an error scenario in the 400 error message in the catch error. But whether it is a success or failure, definitely you want to log it somewhere, either log for JS, or you can use any frameworks. Like there are a lot of frameworks are there. You can use those frameworks and you can mention like, okay, the promise is successfully executed with this response or that response. You can you know display this one. Okay, so are you guys really understood what is a promise is? No response. Rajesh Kashyap, Sandeep, Tejashwini Sahu. Okay, Rajesh responded like yes, Sandeep responded like yes. Great, super. So, okay, Tejashwini responded yes. Okay, great. Now, we do have some predefined functions here. See, P is a variable, it is a promise, right? So, we do have some predefined, what it is called, predefined promise methods are there. So there is some promise method, something called promise dot all is there. Promise dot all settled. There are different functions. Okay, so what is the use of these functions? So see, sometimes what happened, right? There is a real time scenario. Let's consider on this way. Uh, Basically the credit card system, if you are aware of the credit card system, usually what happened, right? The credit card is linked to your bank account. That is the first thing. Similarly, there are some third parties which are handling this credit card system. Okay, so in a real time, usually I'm telling you. So what happened, right? Let's say you swipe your credit card or did some transaction here. Now the credit card system or the interface, what it will do, it will send two notifications. First one to the bank and say that, okay, this guy did some transaction. So you need to send some notification to the bank and say that this update is a, what it is called, credit limit, or based on the credit limit, it will check and it will respond back. Similarly, what you need to do, there is a other task. Whenever your transaction is done, immediately it will inform to the third party people, whoever handling this credit or CIBIL score and all. They mention that, okay, this much of transaction this guy did. Let's say there is a third service. What the third service is, you need to send a immediate notification for the user through the SMS or through the email. Okay, that means parallelly you need to do three things. Whenever the transaction is done, update your bank account, update your credit account, and update your let's say send notification emails are there. Okay, let's say there are three things. So let's say if you want to handle three promises, usually people will do what they will do in a developers in a real time. So let's say it's a promise one, he will write some blah 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 code. Okay, I'm not talking about what is that code is. Let's consider this code is something like, let's say this promise. So this promise will handle all the bank updates. Let's say there is another promise that is a P2, which will update a credit card uh, company, let's say whatever, either Visa or whatever there is there, right? Master or something, that credit card company. There is another promise which should run on the background after your transaction. It is a notification server. Okay. Basically, what it will do, these are the three promises. So whenever the bank update, I mean, let's consider our promise P is there. Okay, let's say let a transaction is done. This promise is a transaction promise. Okay, so whenever this transaction is done, you need to update the bank, you need to update to the credit card company, and you need to send the notification to the email server. Now, let's say there are three promises parallel you have to done, right? In that time, you don't need to send the three notifications. I mean, three times you don't need to send the three promises and all. Instead of that, at a time you can call all the promises. Let's say put it in an array and mention something like a P1, comma P2, comma P3. Okay. So till ES6, we do have a promise.all method. So what promise.all method will do? It will execute promise one, promise two, promise three. See, this is the beauty of asynchronous. Actually, what happened, right? In the synchronous way, if you are writing any program, I mean, JavaScript is basically synchronous. Believe me or not, it's really synchronous and single threaded. But how we can go with this asynchronous and event looping, and because of event loop. there is a concept called event loop. Are you guys aware of a event loop in Node.js? Guys, please respond. In next 5 minutes, I'm going to close. Okay, so we will discuss about the event loop tomorrow. I will definitely explain you. So event loop is a thing which will help you to make the JavaScript from single threaded to the multi-threaded. I mean to say, like, whatever the synchronous programming is there, all the synchronous programming will convert into the asynchronous way by using a promise.all method. I mean to say, by using an event loop. Okay, so that is completely different. You need to aware of what is a synchronous, you need to know what is asynchronous. Just read about the synchronous and asynchronous. Definitely, this will help you. But yeah, we will discuss more in tomorrow session definitely. So in that case, so initially they have implemented some function called a promise.all. This is an asynchronous call. If you just see, if you just put a mouse over there, right? Our IDE showing something like creates a promise that is resolved with an array of results when all the provided promises are resolved or rejected when the promise is rejected. Okay. Now remember one thing, you can give any number of promise.all, but unfortunately promise one is success, promise two is success, but promise three is fail. Then immediately whatever the other promises are there, they will not execute. This is the main drawback of promise.all. Let's say if the promise one is there, it is executed successfully, but promise two is resolved, I mean, it is like rejected, then definitely P3 and P4 promises will be stopped. They will never execute. But there is a new functionality implemented after ES6, that is a promise.all settle. Here, what happened, right? P1, P2, P3, P4, any number of promises you can give in a synchronous manner, all the promises will be executed, and you will get the result even if the promise is success or failure. That too in a array format. It will clearly mention that whether P1 is passed or failed, or promise 2 is passed or failed, promise 3 is passed or failed, promise 4 is passed or failed. But in the promise.all, what happened? Let's say if P1 is executed and P2 is failed, then P3, P4 are not executed. But in promise.all settled, it will wait till all the promises are settled down. That is the reason we kept it as a promise.all settled. Okay, I'm done. I'm done with my session. And thank you so much for your patience. Just go with your, okay, Veerayanam, raise your hand. Okay, go ahead with your question, please. If you can unmute yourself, that is really great. But I'm not sure how we can do that. I mean, I'm not the admin for this one, right? So I really don't know. You can just type your question here. Ready? Let me try. Where is this guy? Veera Reddy Annam. Okay. Ask to unmute. No, I don't know. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. Now it is unmute.
super. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, while going to the class, actually, you better unmute. We can answer or we can ask something. Because of that, I'm unable to speak anything.
That's the only problem. Why? I mean, I am assuming, like, right? Basically, why these people put this restriction, right? Usually, when the session is going on, people in middle only they will start asking their questions and all. So that is the reason the session will be prolonged and it will be delayed. So some
Yeah, yeah.
whoever got an answers, they are happy, but whoever not got the answers, right? Definitely, they will feel like, oh my god, what is this guy is wasting my time, right? So that is the reason they may stop this, not giving access for you, but definitely just raise your hands. I will give you a chance. I mean, always my chat window will be open here and you can raise your questions anytime. Even if I am not able to unmute, you can just type your question here. Definitely I will read out that question and I will answer to that question.
I typed everything in the chat, but I think you're not.
Why?
Can you
Where?
see my chat?
Yes, but no one is here. You just mentioned something like hi or something. Just chat something like hi. Let's see.
Hi, Veera. I said Veera. Hi, Veera.
No, we didn't receive anything here. See, you can see my screen, right? I kept it as everyone.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
even if I scroll
yeah,
down,
yeah. I'm able to see your screen.
but I didn't get anything, right? So others like Tejashvi or Sandeep or Divyansh, these people are typing something and I am getting that one. So okay, now I think switch to here. Just to just mention like everyone. Please, everyone put it something like everyone here. Just feel free to ask your questions. Anything is fine. Even if I switch to Veera Reddy Anam, but I didn't get anything. No. So I just kept it as everyone. So feel free to ask any question here. Okay, go ahead, Veera. If you have any question, you can ask me. No issues.
Okay. So this is the promise function is the part of JavaScript, and it is a Node script.
Yes, it is completely a JavaScript. Now
Okay.
you may have a question something like why we are learning a JavaScript. We are going for a Node.js, right? Yeah, my
Yeah.
answer is simple. Okay, so Node.js was built on the top of JavaScript. Believe me or not, Node.js was built on JavaScript plus Chrome V8 engine plus C++. On the top of these three, see, when they implemented this Node.js, they considered all these three things, and on the top of these three, they have implemented Node. Basically, if you are observe this one or not, JavaScript is only a client-side programming language, right? Oh, I mean,
Yes.
if you go back for 5 to 10 years, it will definitely. Uh, Divyansh, just hold for a minute, please. Okay, so JavaScript is as client-side scripting programming language. Now, JavaScript people, what ECMA team wants to do is they want to implement at least one server-side programming language. That is the reason they have implemented Node.js. So to achieve that one with a simple JavaScript, they are not able to do that. For that reason, they have included C++. But JavaScript is C++ is purely a server-side programming language, right? But now JavaScript is purely client-side language, right? Now they want to mix these two things and render it on the browser. That is the reason they choose this Chrome V8 engine, right? So there are some concepts like let me show you. Okay. If you go to the nodejs.org, right, there is something called a doc section. If you click on the doc side, see, these are all the predefined node modules or packages. We call it as a package or node modules. So let's say there is something called a HTTP. Let's say, okay, or let's consider something called a file. Okay, A B C D E F. Right. Just a minute. If you are already heard about the file system, okay, so let's imagine in this way you are building a web application, and if you want to load some image is nothing but a file, right? So how you can load that image? You need to provide the either absolute path or a relative path, right? So with that you will get the data in the format of chunks. If you know that, right? Buffer, in the format of buffer you will get a small data from server to the client, right? But if you want to read the file, it is definitely not possible. So that is the reason they have included C++. If you go with the C, this console and crypto, this file system, HTTP, everything is a C++ functionality. So they have implemented here because you want to directly connect to the server. That will be possible only through the C++. It is really, see, if you see C++ add-on, C or C++ add-on switch code API, C++ embedded API. So all this was built on a C++. That is the reason we definitely need these promises. Okay, let's say if you are writing something like a file.read is one of the method. Let's say, okay, in the file.read, what you will do, did you ever write in any example on the file.read? See, async function is there. Simply, if you observe this one, right, this is nothing but one simple callback. See, only the selected part. Whatever the selected part I have wrote, this is one callback. Now this is the updated documentation that they are using async and await. But earlier they are using a promises. Before that they are using a callbacks. Simply I can say, so this is the callback. So without understanding what is a callback is, what is a promise is, what is async await, you cannot go for a Node.js and you cannot write any piece of code. Did your question answer?
Yeah. Yes.
Great, thank you. My next question is from Divyan Shahu. How many sessions it will take? Buddy, I'm really not sure. To be frank, I'm really not sure because I just saw your curriculum, right? It is mentioning it is a 35 sessions are there. See, Node.js is or JavaScript is not a simple task to learn within a 3 months or 6 months. We cannot say that it is a infinite, unlimited. If you keep on learning, right? We still are using a ES6, but in the market ES12 is there. See how much lag we have, but still people are adopting only ES6 or hardly ES6. Not no any real developer currently using ES7 or ES8 concepts in any of the projects. But in the market, ES12 is there. So I don't know. Maybe we will go like with the 30 sessions around. If it is done, then it's fine. Or else if I can prolong to up to 40 sessions, that maybe. I cannot guarantee you for definitely. I cannot answer for this question, but definitely it is 35 sessions is a minimum count. It may or may not go up to 40. Max to max, I will try to finish up to 40 sessions. Okay. Any further
Uh,
questions?
can can you give me that links URLs? Actually, I'm unable to view. Screen able to display, but the thing is very small content.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that may.
as I mentioned, the very first part is always you should go with the node.js.org. It will give you some brief example about or brief introduction about Node.js. Just try to read these things. But still, if you are not understood anything or if you want any additional help, definitely I'm here to happy to help you. And next one is a Mozilla MDN. Definitely, this is a very important. If you want to learn or proficient with the JavaScript, always use the JavaScript. I mean JavaScript Mozilla MDN. Or apart of that, I can tell you. Sorry, I can give you another one. Something like a javascript.info is there. This is one of the very good site. Okay, just go to the site and see all the concepts here. You can see something called a promises here. For example, advanced functions. Here we can just a minute. Classes, error handling. See, promise and async await. This concept is there, right? If you go back to here they will explain what is a callback is, what is the drawback of the callback. That's something called callback hell, and how we can handle by using promises. And see, this is what a pyramid of them. That is what I call a callback hell, or it is called a pyramid of them. See, one callback inside, another callback inside, another callback. So this is really a very difficult for users or developers to understand the code. That is the reason they came up with the promises concept. If you go with promises, async and await, these things you need to definitely understand. Like promise sharing, promise API, promise creation, micro task, and async await. JavaScript is really not a small thing. I can say that it is a very huge topic, but yeah, this are really helps you. How we can share? I think we need to have an Google Drive, right? But uh, just a minute. Is there any option to share the file? Oh, great. So we are able to share this file. Just a minute. Notes, let's say. Go to desktop. Go to guys. Try to download this node notes as soon as possible, because once we are closing the session, definitely you guys may can't get this one. I will put it everyone in the meeting. Daily I will update these notes, but if you download that one as soon as possible before closing the call, you can have something for references. Okay, I mentioned every link here in a notepad. Just go through that one, please. In Node, what we use, promises or async await, both. We are using promises, we are using a callbacks, we are using async await. So now you may ask the question, if we are really not using a promise, see, there is some drawback with the promises, because there's something called a promise chaining. So promise chaining is a really tricky to understand, and it is a very difficult, once if some promises fail, definitely all the promises are on hold. So because to overcome that thing, we are using async await. Async await is a very recent one after ES6 only. After ES6, recentest we got this async await. Async await is simply look like a normal function. See, if you see this function, right, just like this, there is nothing need to learn and all. Simple. Just put one keyword in front of that function async, and whatever you want to execute and wait for some time, just put a await. Let's say this is one DB call. In the DB call, you want to go for a database and bring some data. Until then, you want to wait. Right? Tomorrow we will discuss about this event looping, right? By that time, I will tell you. Basically, what will happen in JavaScript, there is something called an execution context. You need to learn about that execution context. Are you guys aware of execution context? In execution context,
No.
what happens? Each and every line will come to the call stack, and call stack will read that and it will execute that. There are two components. Memory component is there, and the execution context will be there. So JavaScript really won't wait. For example, let's say I will give you some rough example. Let's say, uh, okay, I'm sorry, just a minute. Okay, I will come to here. Let's say you have something like a console.log. Okay, something like a anyone. That's it, nothing much. Okay, similarly, after here, what you will do, you will write one for loop. Definitely this for loop will break your mind. Let I equals to 0 and I is less than or equals to 10000, something like this, and I plus plus. Okay, these many number of times you are executing something like a console.log. That's it, nothing much. And that too, if that value is something like this, I'm just putting something like this. If this value is there, right, I value is there, right, so I is less than something like a -2, for example. I don't want to calculate that value, so I just put a -2. If I is less equals to this one, something like a Okay, 1 crore minus 2, then only I will just put a console.log. Otherwise, don't need to do anything, just loop over that one and then immediately put a console.log, something like a 2, something like this. Okay, now what you are expecting here, people usually think like a JavaScript is a line by line expression. So first it will print a 1, after that it will wait till the for loop is finished and it will print high at the time of 99999. After that it will print a console.log. But no, it won't do something like that. First it will print a 1 and then it will print a 2 and then it will print a high. Basically for loop is like it will take so much time, right? So JavaScript really don't wait for this time. And there are some waiter functions. If you are aware of set timeout or set interval, there are some functions are there. If the set timeout will be there, right, until unless the time is remaining is finished, you cannot execute some piece of code. Okay, let me execute this. I'm sorry for delay, guys. I'll try to quickly wrap this session, but unfortunately uh, question is here. That is the reason I'm expecting. See, if you just execute this one, right, see, 1 high 2, so for loop is executing fine. You may think like, okay, it is a line by line execution is happening. Now what I will do, I will just put a comment on this one for loop. Instead of that, I will write something like a set timeout function. Okay, so in set timeout function. Okay, in the set timeout function, it will take 2 parameters. The very first parameter is a callback and another parameter is a timer, like let's say 1000 milliseconds if you want to wait. Even here, if you put something called a console.log and just put something like a high. Okay, now what you are expecting? So basically 1, after that high, after that 2. This is what we are expecting, right? But now what will happen? 1, 2, and it is waiting for 10 seconds or 10 milliseconds, and then it is printing a high. If you observe this one, it is a line by line execution. Then why it is waiting to this? Let's see. Now you may ask the question, sir, it is a timer function. So that is why it is waiting till the execution is finished. Okay, fine. I will put a 0 here. If that is the case, I'm expecting something like a 1 high and 2. 0 means there is no waiting, right? So definitely 1 high and 2. That is what we are expecting. Now let's see what will happen. 1, 2, and high. Even if it is 0 milliseconds, still it is a printing high, right? There are something concept called a micro task and a macro task. Whatever the timer functions with the 0 milliseconds, still it will be on the waiting queue. So this is all about a synchronous. To make it asynchronous, I just want to wait till that execution is finished. I don't want to print this too. There is no possible way. Even if you put something like 1000 milliseconds, and what I want is I want to print 1 and then wait for 10 milliseconds and then print a high and then 2. No, it is really not possible by using a simple set timeout or set interval timers. So because of that, what we will do, we will use a async function. Okay, and inside the async, whatever the async we are using, just we will put a await function. That's it. Use the async function here. Instead of that, what I will do is I will write one function, something like ABCD. ABCD is my function, and inside the ABCD, the very first statement is a console.log 1, and set timeout function 2, and then the third function is await. Okay, so let's say this await function I'm not writing here. I'm just waiting here. Okay, and just put a async keyword in front of this one. Now what will happen? It will wait 1 and it will wait till the 2 is printing and then set timeout will come. Or it will just print this one and then it will wait till the 2 is executed. So there are a lot of things are there. I'm really sorry for delay. I mean, people are just living, right? So we will discuss about these things later. Okay. Anything else? Okay, Divyanshu Sahu, GitHub. Any Git repository for GitHub? I really don't have one. We will create something. We'll definitely create one GitHub. If you guys are aware of, then we will definitely go with that. Okay. No more questions.
No, right now.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Tomorrow by 7 o'clock we will meet one more time, and let's see like if you are
Recording stopped.
If you are comfortable with the things, definitely we will continue the things. Okay.